So, you might have noticed that my channel got deleted, and that was, long story short, because of a YouTube problem, some security nonsense. Kind of a kick in the sack, but we're gonna start again. We had almost 4,000 subscribers. I'm sure we can restore it back to what it was back then. Either way, we're gonna keep making videos, and I'm gonna show you today how I made my track Nobody's Business with my friend Oliver. It's part of my new EP that's just been released now, and the reason I wanted to highlight this song in particular is because the process of how it came to be is quite different to a lot of my other productions, and it might be quite insightful for other producers such as yourself to look at how the process went and see that there's multiple ways of making music. Last thing is that I've released a sample library for the EP. Now, this sample library contains pretty much all of the samples that I've used across the EP, some of the loops, and also as a bonus, some of the presets that I've used for Serum, and that includes the chords from my track Liar, which I know is quite a popular one. So it's available on my website for £10. You'll get over 170 samples that have been used by me, and you'll get some bonus Serum presets too. Anyway, enough shilling, let's get into the video. Okay, so here we are in the project. So you can see that there's quite a few stems that have come from his original demo, and this was not the way I typically work, but it was actually quite refreshing to work in this way. So as you can see, there was quite a few of those stems, but if we scroll down, I've changed a lot of the drums, I've added a lot of extra layers just to bring out the track that little bit more. So let's go over that, but first I want to show you what I did with the stems to begin with. So the two guitars are panned almost hard left and right, so individually. And then they're going to a bus with a DJM filter on them that filters themselves. The key stem is this. And then the bass line is this. And then after we add the kick drum, I'm going to keep the keys on just so you know the context of where the drums are. And then we added the Oliver pack here. This sample library is incredible. This is on Splice, Oliver Disco Drums. So good. One of my favorite libraries. And then we added some extra percussions. So there's a little clap there, and some bigger claps as well with some reverb on, including that one too. Really interesting sound. And together, it sounds like this. And then we get to the pre-chorus, and this is where I've started adding quite a few extra things. So we did have the key stem again. Little extra vocals that came from him. I think these were amazing, so I kept them in. So let's look at what else I added. I added a bass line from Contact, so this is a real bass sounding instrument, and then a little sweep effect as well. So together. And then finally I added some ambient effects. This sound here, really useful. And then of course a disco string. Can't go wrong. On the second half, just to keep the energy going, I would have added some extra disco kind of sounds. A clap that filters up. A hi-hat. As you can see, the automation is here, so it just builds up. And it leads into the chorus as well, so it's a smoother transition. Extra claps here. These are, again, from that Steven sample library. These are really realistic. And then finally, some impacts and build-ups. That's a Kashmir one. Actually, not finally. We've got some extra loops here. And this Oliver one again. This is a clock sound. And then finally, This Is the Truth finally, a Leno, which is another great sample library on Splice. This is an uplifter. So together without the vocals, it sounds like this. And then just before the chorus, we have a little extra clap, and then we have a bass that's going down. Extra little percussion sound here. And then we get into the chorus. So that's where the mixing really was delicate, because it's not like a normal drop. There's a lot of elements going on, but the vocal is over this part. As you can see, the lead vocal is here. We can turn that on. And I'll talk about the vocals in a little minute, because there's some quite weird stuff going on up here. I did some of the backings. We'll get to that. It sounds weird. Right, let's just go through it. Let's take the drums first. That's what I like to start with usually. So here is the kick. It is 3 layers. First layer, second layer. Now, that's not a kick layer, but it adds that hi-hat that you hear on a lot of funk records at the top. And this one's quite aggressive. That sounds like a tom to me, but together as one, it got the kick I wanted. These ones were previous trial and error attempts, and they didn't make the cut. Next up, we've got our claps. So as you can see, there's 2 different claps going as layers, but the benefit of that is that you can also add these extra little ones, just like in this fill here. And they sound like whole new samples because they're actually more exposed by themselves. So the first one is this snare from Frank Moody, and the second one is Leno. Next up, we've got a hi-hat. Very tight and small. And then a crash. And then we have the other hi-hat we were talking about from the build. And finally, we've just got some little percussion loops and bits and pieces, as well as a second top loop that comes in, a shaker. And then we started adding the vocal effects. Now this is a really common effect for me. It's the one from Ikali, I don't know how to pronounce it. And then we've got this one from the Lyre pack, which is one that I just love. I'm constantly going back to this pack. Again, all of these are on Splice. So let's just add the extra ones. And then he had his own distorted vocal, which you'll be able to hear here. Very weird sound. But it really fills up the crowd kind of effect in the chorus. Last up, we have some extra snare layers. I should have told you that before. And we have this extra little chop. When you add the bass line, you get this. And then I just built some 7th chords over the bass line in Serum. So this is a very easy patch to set up. It's literally a filtered saw chord with 8 voices. Nothing really going on in the effects section. And in terms of processing, so in the processing, we've got the EQ that's boosted in a really bad way, but it sounds all right. And then we've got the OTT as well, boosting the highs a little bit more. So this is what they sound like. And this automation clip at the bottom here is controlling the cutoff of the filter. So it's moving a little bit, especially here you can hear it come out a little bit more. That took a while to dial in, but yeah, it's just attached to the filter. Next up, we had the guitars that are again panned left and right. And then we add this snare that was from the original demo he sent me. So there's a lot of layers going on here, and some of them are from the original demo, like the keys. And then some of them are, of course, my own drums and samples. So you see how this isn't the standard way of working. The demo was pretty much made already. The things that I've actually added are like effects and drums, a fresh lick of paint on the mixdown as well, but there's not much. There's not much in terms of actual composition that I've done here. Let's just talk about the second breakdown. And I wanted to differentiate this from the first one. I wanted to bring the energy down and mellow it down a little bit more. So we went for a more of an atmospheric part here, and I'll just let you hear it. And then we're back into the pre-chorus again. So let's look at what's going on here. We go down into the keys, a very light kick, and a respace. This effect is really good. So simple, but it's essentially a pluck that goes in the background. I'm constantly using this kind of sound that's in the second part of the breakdown. Again, another pluck. And then we're into this part. So we've just added some extra shakers and some extra little effects like this cashmere one. And some claps. And some hi-hats. And then some pads. Some more disco strings and more claps together. So you might be asking, and I get this question quite a lot, why do I not go over the processing in my project? And the answer is because a lot of the time the processing is just so simple. It's EQ, it's some OTT, and it's some Camel Crush. There's the DJM filter, which is my favorite filter. As you can see, there's a lot of automation from that. And then the final plugin I really use is Valhalla Room and H-Delay. Honestly, for me, it's about the sample choice. I don't do that much mixing. A lot of the mixing is down to the levels of things, and I don't have any rules for that. I just use my ears. But it's really just down to the sample choice and the sounds available. So I know I don't really show the processing much, but as you notice, as I go through a lot of these channels, there's nothing on them. Maybe some EQ. Look at all these, completely empty. DJM filter there. What have we got? Valhalla Shimmer, which is another reverb, similar to Valhalla Room. OTT, Kickstart. They're just not very revolutionary plugins. And I really believe that sample choice is more important than the plugins you're using. For me, anyway, I like to find the right kick before I try and tweak it with an EQ. So yeah, that's really why I don't show the processing that much, because it would just be the same content over and over again. But if there is something special that I do, I will show you. But I'll let you know that there's nothing special going on in this project. It's all just down to the sample choice. So we've got some extra little shakers here. And then another loop. So many loops, all layered on top of each other. Tiny little snap, so together as one. And I really wanted to highlight this part and make it completely dry, so everything cuts off here. And as we'll as I'll show you in a moment, the reverb effects on the vocals actually cut off completely as well. So it becomes really close in the mix, and it just has a nice bit of dynamic. As you can see, again, it's 7 voices in the saw chord, some filters, a much slower attack on the ADSR, and no effects. Nothing revolutionary here. And in terms of processing, we've got an EQ that's equally as ugly as the last one, but it does the job. And one thing to bear in mind that I did with them is that I pitched them up. So this just automates the pitch and gives it a little bit more edge and makes them stand out a little bit more. So as a whole, we've got this. The second pre-chorus is just the same as the first one, just a little bit more stripped back. So the dynamics between the first and the second chorus just are that little bit extra. So the last little things that differentiate the first chorus from the second chorus is that the second chorus has a little bit more of a build-up. We've got this head onto sweep, which is from a hardstyle sample library, but it works. We've got this Kashmir one, and then we've got this final little one that I think is really good, is this string. So that builds up with a lot of tension, and then in the chorus we lead into this luxury sample string stab here. So it just sucks up and drops down really nicely, and that's what adds a little bit extra to the final chorus. It's truly that simple to make the energy just feel that a little bit more in the second part. So now let's talk about the vocal, because in terms of production, that's truly it. Again, processing is so simplistic, it's not even worth covering. It's down to the sample choice for me. So there we go. And of course, all of these samples that I have made, including the kick and the snare, are all available in my new sample library. So that's the final time I'll shill that to you. Let's talk about the vocals now. So I got sent this lead from Oliver, and we'll just let you hear it right now.
DM, I know I got only one life. Don't wanna spend it, listen to you bitch and whine.
So it's going through a delay and a reverb as a send.
Carpe diem, I know I got only one life.
So I felt that to bring out the chorus a little bit more, we needed some backing. So I did the backing, and it sounds terrible by itself, but that's not what it's about. It's about the context of things. Just like when you're layering your synthesizers, some of them will sound terrible by themselves, but it's about the whole picture. So I'm going to expose myself for being a terrible backing vocalist, but I do the job, all right? So let's just hear how trash some of these are. So together as one, this is what the backing vocals I did sound like.
Nobody's business it. Nobody's business it. None of my business. It is none of my business.
So this, I don't know if you guys have listened to the Scissor Sisters before, but one of the layers in there is just so squeaky and high pitched. It's crazy. It hurt my throat a little bit when I was trying to get it. But let's just go for the layers. So the first one we've got is this kind of from a distance shouting
Nobody.
and doing a harmony. Second one. Okay, second one doesn't exist. I don't know why. Third one.
Nobody's business.
This is just me recording in the same octave at quite a distance, about 3 to 4 different takes, and panning them left and right.
Nobody.
Falsetto one is the one that I don't want to show you, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Nobody's business. Nobody.
That's enough of that. You get the point. It's just sitting on top, and again, in the context of things, you don't hear it. We've got harmonies.
Nobody's business. Nobody.
And then we've got the low version.
Nobody's business.
Believe it or not, I can get that low with my voice.
Nobody's business.
Then we've got the weird falsetto, which is the worst one out of all of them, but again, I'm just gonna show you. It's actually out of tune as well, which just goes to show how bad it can be and how much you can get away with in terms of backing vocals. But together as one, let's take the lead vocal and the backing vocals and let's just see what it sounds like together.
Nobody business, ain't nobody business, ain't none of my business. It ain't none of your business.
That's how you get that huge chorus sound. And then, once we listen to the whole track,
on the same excuses. I think it's getting old. I ain't your therapist, I ain't your measure A. Oh, can't really tell you anything you don't already know. No one said it was easy.